Will Kenny Dillingham leave ASU? There's Florida. There's Penn State. There's LSU. There's Auburn, right? Is it likely that Kenny Dillingham leaves? What? All right, today we're going to be discussing the fact that it's very likely that Kenny Dillingham could leave ASU. All these different big-time universities have job openings right now due to bad coaching. And Kenny Dillingham is at the forefront of a lot of these decisions for a multitude of reasons. I know why he's at the front of them. He was hired in 2023. 2023, first season with the Arizona State Sun Devils, he goes 3-9, okay? The very next season, in 2024, he takes ASU to the college football playoff and wins the first round and almost straight up beats Texas to go to the semifinal. What? How do you go from 3-9 in 2023 to just a complete flip of the script, right? Because making it to the college football playoff is not an easy task by anybody, right? I mean, let alone winning it. There's only two coaches right now in college football that have even won the championship, okay? So for Kenny in his second year to get that close is going to be pulling eyes very quickly, and for good reason, in my eyes. There is a lot of big jobs open right now. There's Florida. There's Penn State. There's LSU. There's Auburn, right? As it sits right now in 2025, Arizona State is 6-3. Okay, so do you say this is a down year? Do you say that this is, just him coasting along? To me, it seems like the team is still playing with the same level of passion and the same level of intensity as the year before. They are missing, Cam Scatterbo, which was a huge part of their offense last year and was somebody that had very high production for the Sun Devils. And their backup, or not the backup, but their current starting running back, Relique Brown, right? He's very good. Different type of athlete, though, in a lot of ways. He's more of a quick twitch, straight line speed, whereas Cam Scatterbo had more of the brute strength to, run through tackles, run over people, right? So they're two different backs to start off. But getting back to the main subject, is it likely that Kenny Dillingham leaves? To start, just giving a little background on Kenny Dillingham is first, he's 35 years old. His alma mater is ASU, okay? So this is a guy that's through and through been in Arizona. He coached high school football in Arizona. This is his home state. He coached at Florida State. It could be a possibility that he goes to Florida State if Mike Norvell is fired. It's a possibility that he goes to Florida to be the head coach. He has time in Florida. But overall, after some evidence that I've seen on Twitter and from Chris Cartman, I don't believe he's going to be leaving. He had a phone call, which somebody recorded, and I'll overlay that right now.
Your team know in meetings, poking your head in last week and saying, hey, just so you know, I'm not going anywhere next year. Carry on. Take us through that whole thing and what made it feel necessary to do at this particular time.
I mean, this is, like I said, I've said this from the beginning, my next door neighbor's my sister. My parents live 3 doors down. My wife's parents live 5 doors down. My wife.
And on top of that phone call that he recorded, there's also news that, he went into the position rooms last week and literally told his players straight up that he's going to be at ASU the very next season. Okay, so phone call, you got tweets, you got him going into position rooms. I think he's going to be here for another year at ASU. I would not be surprised at all if he does not leave. A lot of these other coaching jobs, people are starting to realize, when you accept a job at a Florida or an LSU, you don't necessarily control the entire team anymore. Schools like that is when there's going to be administrators involved. There's going to be other heads involved of, oh, you're recruiting him? No, we want him, right? You're not all the way in full control the first couple of years you're at a big time, powerhouse school like one of these SEC schools. And I think Kenny Dillingham realizes that, and I think he's comfortable in Arizona. You know, he lives right next to his sister, his words. He lives right down the street from his parents, his words, right? So there's a lot of evidence pointing to him staying here for another year. And I will say this about Kenny Dillingham. There's a lot of coaches out there where you watch him in the press and you're like, this guy's just saying a script, right? You're like, does he actually mean that? Is he just saying that so the press gets off his head? Is it this? Is it that? Right? There's a lot of questions you can ask yourself when you watch, you know, a coach's presser conference after the game. And to me, it seems like Kenny Dillingham is a lot more authentic and he's a lot more straightforward, and he's going to be himself regardless, which is something that I respect about him. And it noticeably comes off different when he's interviewed by the media. That's just my opinion. But all in all, he's been incredible for the Sun Devils, you know, pulling off Texas Tech's only loss this year, which was insane to watch. You know, he wins close games. His team doesn't quit. They play competitively. It seems like everybody wants to play. There's good energy around the team. And I think people notice that. And I think it's very good for Arizona State football going down the line. And so, all in all, I would say it doesn't really make too much sense for Kenny Dillingham to be leaving ASU this next season. And despite all the, you know, the rumors and the coaching openings every single week coming, you know, here and there, I'm going to go ahead and say that Kenny Dillingham, he's going to be here at least through the 2026 season. I will say that I really do feel like ASU needs to put more money into the program so that they can pull athletes like some of these D linemen for Texas Tech, some of these corners for BYU, some of, you know, these major big time athletes that some of these other teams are signing just merely off of having money. And ASU has the money to do that, but are they allocating it to the football program? Okay. To me, I think if you give Kenny Dillingham Texas Tech's roster, they're undefeated. And they're likely to win the championship, actually. That's how bullish I am on his style of coaching. He's not afraid to flip the script. He's not afraid to go with a completely different set of plays in order to win the game like he did with Jeff Sims against Iowa State. Just overall, though, I don't believe he's going to be leaving this next season. So make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Okay. Sam Levitt goes out for the Sun Devils. He's out for the season. Jeff Sims comes in and just straight up beats Iowa State. Who is Jeff Sims? Let's go over it. Okay, so Jeff Sims, very interesting story, very interesting background, and I can see where the confidence came to break the record for Arizona State's quarterback rushing yards in a single game. Jeff Sims started off his college career at Georgia Tech, and his first season there almost threw for 2,000 yards. He threw for 1,881 yards his first season at Georgia Tech. Whoa. Okay. Plays again at Georgia Tech, throws for over 1,400 yards. 2022 season, stays at Georgia Tech again, throws for over 1,100 yards, okay? He put up production for Georgia Tech. That's one thing that is completely obvious. He was producing a lot. So you may ask, why did he end up transferring to Nebraska? Well, to me, money can do a lot of stuff for a lot of these athletes. We'll just start off that with this era of transfer portal, NIL. And number two, is it more realistic for Nebraska to win a national championship over Georgia Tech? In some people's eyes, they say yes. Some people's eyes, they say no. Kind of just depends. But he made the transfer no matter... No ifs, ands, and buts around. He made the transfer to Nebraska, okay, for the 2023 season. And pretty much right off the start, people realized that it was not a good fit for Jeff Sims. Had a terrible QBR in the first couple of games, and didn't really have at all the same sort of production that he had at Georgia Tech. He actually threw for 6 interceptions in his time at Nebraska, okay? And then Jeff Sims, he transfers to Arizona State University in 2024. same class as Sam Leavitt. Obviously, we know how that quarterback battle went down. Sam Leavitt obviously winning that and becoming the starter quarterback and for him. But Sam Leavitt's out now, right? So this guy's getting his shot, and his first game in there was jaw-dropping, to say the least. How do you come in and you immediately just break the rushing yards as a quarterback at ASU? Because he can run, like run, and he's big. This guy's a lot bigger than Sam Leavitt, and to me, can run a lot. The threat of him running is way higher than Sam Leavitt just because of the sheer size of Jeff Sims. He's 6'4", 220, but moves very well athletically when he does decide to run, and that's something that's very apparent to me. But I think his time at Nebraska really just emphasizes the fact that a lot of these college athletes on a lot of these teams, it's so competitive to even step on the field. That's number one. Number two is the margin for error on whether you stay on the field for these teams or whether you don't is so slim. And I don't think people realize how many things really have to fall into place for the athlete that you see out there on Saturday when you watch these games. It's coaching relationships. It's practicing well. It's not being late. There's so much. It's academics, right? And, for Jeff Sims in 2023 when he was at Nebraska, it wasn't a good fit, okay? And something like that, just one bad fit for a quarterback, they're going to have to battle to be back on, they're going to have to battle to be back as the starter in the future after something like that happens. I would say overall, right now, for me, looking ahead of ASU's final couple of games, I'm pretty bullish on ASU finishing the season on a high note. They have 3 opponents that are 100%, or they have a few opponents left that are 100% able to be beat. And I feel like Jeff Sims has very quickly altered the identity of this team. And whenever you see that from a backup quarterback right away, that's something to keep your eyes on because there's not going to be any sort of trough with him. It seems like he took it over and it's a little bit of a high that they're on right now. And, when Kenny Dillingham is interviewed after the Iowa State game, you can see his emotion behind it just because he knows the amount of work Jeff Sims has been through. He knows the ups and downs of this industry. And I think he just has, an unsaid, respect for an athlete like this. And I do as well. But I just think Jeff Sims has altered the identity of this team. He's from Jacksonville, Florida. He is a very good athlete, and I think he's going to take over the Sun Devils, and I think he's going to lead them to a good season to end out the year. Will they make the Big 12 championship? I don't know. But when we look at what he has done as a quarterback so far, I think it is foolish to think that this is just your average backup that's going to fold. He is performing, and he performed his first game out there for Iowa State, and so I am bullish for the end of the season. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. ASU versus West Virginia. The Mountaineers versus the Sun Devils. Who we thinking? Who you got? Man, when I look at this from a bird's eye view, I see West Virginia. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten ASU. Can you make the case? Should West Virginia beat ASU? I don't know. You tell me. When I look at this, though, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm taking ASU to win this game by at least 7 points. Either 21-14 or 21-28. ASU's got too many weapons. Their offensive talent is better than West Virginia's. West Virginia held Colorado, their last opponent, to, I think it was 51 rushing yards, and still only won the game by 7. So now I have to ask myself, if they held First of all, are they going to be able to hold ASU to under 60 yards rushing? I think the answer is no. I think Raleek Brown rushes for over that by himself. And if Jeff Sims has even close to the game he had against Iowa State, it's definitely a no. So that's number one. Quarterback for West Virginia. His name is Nico Marshall. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but he has a 39.2 QBR. Okay? To beat the Sun Devils right now, you got to have a higher QBR than that. That's just how I'm looking at this. I don't think he is the one to pull off this upset against the Sun Devils. I think ASU is on a hot streak right now. I think Jeff Sims has completely changed the identity of this offense, right? And it's towards the good. And I almost think it's an advantageous aspect that they go through such a big personnel change late in the season. It kind of throws a lot of defenses off on how to game plan for them because they don't necessarily know what's coming at them. ASU lost to Houston, yes. Well, and West Virginia, pulled off, arguably to me, one of the most random upsets of the season. But is West Virginia going to do that again to ASU? No. No. Another aspect to add on is this is a home game for the Sun Devils, right? We all know that home field advantage in college football, it's worth at least 3 points, no matter how you spin it, okay? And ASU being home is definitely a huge advantage for the Sun Devils. And so, final score prediction, give me ASU 28, West Virginia 21. Sun Devils win it. Mountaineers go back to West Virginia on a long flight. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Where is ASU football at right now? Just as we speak, just overall. I think coaching-wise right now, I think the players and coaches are at ease because of how Kenny Dillingham has been honest and straightforward about his next season decisions regarding the program. I also think that it helps when there is players that still don't have that have unfinished business, for the Sun Devils. There's talks that Sam Leavitt could come back for another year still. It's not a solidified thing that he's going off to the NFL. When I look at the players right now and the team, they're going through some very emotional highs and emotional lows, right? Emotional low, Sam Leavitt's out of the season, out for a year. Oh, gosh. Oh, Jordan Tyson pulled his hamstring, tore his hamstring, whatever the injury is. Oh, emotional low. That's like their entire offense. And yet Jeff Sim comes in and breaks the Arizona State QB rushing record against Iowa State. Oh, okay. Now we're on an emotional high. And when I watched the post-game presser of Kenny Dillingham after the Iowa State game, and he's like, I'm giving these players off until next Sunday. I hear where he's coming from on that aspect. He knows that there's a time and place for, rest and recovery. And I think it's coming more from an aspect of just all the emotional highs and lows that the team has gone through during this season. And I think it's going to work out, not only from just feeling good in your, in the body and just not being banged up, but also just the fact of okay, now we got to have a week off and we can come back and be locked in and ready to go, just full bore. And so I like where Arizona State is at right now. I mean, the Houston game was, kind of an obvious trap game after, beating Texas Tech so handily and then having, your whole offense be out for Houston, basically. And of course, you never want to see your team lose, right? But the way they bounced back against Iowa State was just very, I don't want to say unexpected, but I think a lot of people had written them off. a lot of people are very quick to just write Arizona State off, and I think people need to remember that this is not the same Arizona State from 5-6 years ago. Kenny Dillingham has injected a type of emotion and a type of feel and competitiveness into this team that is rare. You don't make it to the college football playoff and almost beat Texas by luck. That doesn't just happen. And so overall, I'm very bullish on the end of this season for Arizona State, and I'll be at the West Virginia game in person. Go Devils, and make sure to like,